Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Steve Kenyon Podcast. I'm Steve Kenyon. We're going to put a lot of shows up over the next couple of weeks, counting it down to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. I wanted to get off of the rodeo, well, not off of the rodeo topic necessarily, but off of the NFR is approaching topic, if you will, for just a little bit today. Got an email last week from my friend Dave Duquette, Western Justice. Dave centered out of Oregon and is one of the most effective lobbying voices we have right now in the Western way of life. And the email reads like this: apathy equals extinction for our way of life. We are well into our fourth year of working to stop the ban on rodeo and similar events in Los Angeles. The amount of work to keep this campaign going is staggering. He goes on to talk about the rodeo ban proposal that has been sitting in front of the city council in Los Angeles now, basically ever since the end of the coronavirus. And there's a part where he talks about the language in a bill that was introduced in not a bill, but an ordinance that was introduced in 2024 in July. So just a few months ago. And the language introduced in July 2024 is more concerning than previous versions. Prohibited animal exhibition activities. This is actually from that ordinance. It shall be unlawful to organize or engage in any of the following activities for live public amusement: bareback bronc riding, saddle bronc riding, bull riding, calf roping, steer wrestling, team roping, sounds like a rodeo to me, or any other activity that involves physically wrestling an animal to the ground, roping an animal, or attempting to ride or remain mounted on a bucking animal. This is all coming through Los Angeles, and like I say, the headline of this thing caught my eye. Apathy equals extinction for our way of life. They have been asking that all of us comment to the LA City Council, and the LA City Council has indicated that they're looking at the comments to see what people are saying, how many comments they get in. And there are some folks that, while we're all paying attention to the NFR, for example, might just try to squeeze this thing through. I wanted to share an interview that I did with Dave Duquette back in July where he talks about all of this. By the way, if you have the Cowboy Channel Plus app, Dave was in on Western Sports Roundup late last week and talking about another piece of material that's going through that would allow the USDA to start regulating horse shows across the country, and that's something you might want to pay attention to as well. But if you have the Cowboy Channel Plus app, go to the Friday Western Sports Roundup show, and you can see all the details about that. Here's Dave Duquette. We recorded this interview last July talking about this rodeo ordinance that has been trying to make its way through the city council in Los Angeles with all the details and more. So, welcome to the Steve Kenyon Podcast. My friend Dave Duquette from Western Justice. Dave, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
We've got some news we need to make, and lo and behold, it's out of Los Angeles all over again. I thought we'd kind of been able to put that in our back burner a little bit, but according to the conversation we had the other day, and according to the language that you sent me of a brand new ordinance in Los Angeles, they're pursuing an even more aggressive rodeo ban. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, and it's really not a new one. It's the same one that on December 5th last year, they proposed an amendment to it, which stopped it. And if you recall, we said, it's going to come back at some point. Hopefully it wasn't. We were hoping it wasn't. And because this is so egregious that we were hoping it just wouldn't even see the light of day. And there was so much opposition to it back then that we were just hoping it wouldn't come back up. But Bloomfield, Councilmember Bloomfield has brought it back up. It was wrote exactly. It's exactly the way they worded it in the amendment. It's going to, his true colors are showing now. Yeah. So now, instead of saying he wasn't trying to ban rodeo, before he was saying that he wasn't trying to ban rodeo and that he was just trying to ban the implements of torture. Well, now it's come out that he is just trying to ban rodeo. Yep. And that's the way it is.
Well, so, if you don't believe what Dave just said, let me read to you from the wording of the proposed ordinance. Whereas the city has a compelling interest in ensuring the safety and welfare of animals by providing by prohibiting, animal exhibition activities that are harmful and cause injury to animals. Now, therefore, the people of the city of Los Angeles do ordain as follows: Section 1, Section 52.39-2 is added to Article 3, Chapter 5. Why can't these people just speak English? Of the Los Angeles Municipal Code to read as follows: prohibited animal exhibition activities, and then it has a definition section, and the definitions include bareback riding, bull riding, calf roping, saddle bronc riding, steer wrestling, and team roping. So that sounds to me like banning a rodeo.
It is banning a rodeo, and also I'll read to you also the next subsection B is the part that there's a couple of team roping outfits in the city of LA, and they thought they were going to fly under the radar with this a little bit, but it says prohibited animal exhibition activities. It shall be unlawful to organize or engage in any of the following activities for live public amusement or entertainment. And then it lists those activities. And then it says, or any other activity that involves physically wrestling an animal to the ground, roping an animal, or attempting to ride and remain mounted on a bucking animal. Well, at LA Equestrian Center, where it says right there, attempting to ride or remain mounted on a bucking animal. So we know from past experience with the circuses that they take a little bit and then they go a long ways with it. That this is exactly the same kind of a thing. If you're attempting to ride a horse at LA Equestrian Center in a hunter jumper class that decides to buck on you, is that going to violate this law?
Yeah.
Or this ordinance? It's a scary deal. I mean, we've seen it. Anybody who's paid attention to these animal rights groups has seen them take increment by increment. They play the long game. We're sitting here fighting this short game, and they're playing the long game. They're going to go after little bits and take little bites and little bites and little bites till we're all gone.
The only actual standard rodeo event that's not mentioned in this by name is barrel racing.
Exactly. And down even further, it talks about, they're going to allow for this section shall not be construed to prohibit an equestrian, cultural, or other event, including an event described as a rodeo. So they're trying to say what they were trying to say there is they're being very disingenuous by they're trying to say that they're taking out Sharia and all the cultural events that go on. They're trying to placate people, but they're not. They think that these people aren't smart enough. And I actually had a friend of mine who's a Mexican guy that does Sharia and stuff like that down there in LA. And he said, it makes him so mad that he thinks that we're not smart enough. They think we're not smart enough to see what they're doing, because in that same paragraph, it says any event described as rodeo that does not include any of the activities prohibited under subdivision B. So all of those events, I mean, anything like that in the Charo world is going to be gone.
Yeah.
And Blumenfield's trying to say he's taking the cultural part of it out. So
you just answered my next question, Dave, which was, I remember you and I talking about the previous wording of this ordinance, and it would have affected the Charo events, and it would have affected even parades and things like that were going on. Mm-hmm. Same thing true here, it sounds like.
Oh, 100%. It's going to affect everybody. And the people are complacent to think that it's not going to affect them at some point or in some manner. The other big thing that comes up in this whole deal is that the code enforcement for this stuff is so random, and they can't even, and we've got documents that show that they can't even keep up with the rescues, code enforcement on the rescues and the animal shelters and things like that in the city of LA. They don't have the enforcement capabilities. How are they going to even pretend to do this? I don't understand, how they think they're going to be able to take care of this and enforce anything like this, but it's law. So if somebody goes out to a couple of, I'm not going to mention names or outfits, but if they go out to one of these places that does team roping and some activist goes and says, hey, these guys are they're going against the code, then they're going to go enforce that. So it's going to be left up to the animal rights groups and these moles or people that slip in there and go try to find things and create problems. And the squeaky wheel is going to get the grease. So these people are going to get put out of business. I mean, there's a team roping club there in the city of LA right next to Griffith Park that has been there for 100 years. And they're in real trouble, and they don't even realize how big a trouble they're in.
So what is Dave, let me, and I know that we've talked about this before, but geographically, is just the city of Los Angeles? Is it extend beyond into Los Angeles County? Is it just opening the door in Southern California for, letting the camel get his nose under the tent, to use the old expression? What geographically, what does this affect?
It's the city of LA.
Okay.
This is a city ordinance, so it's only the city of LA. It's not the county, but there's already 2 cities in the county of LA that have banned rodeo and rodeo events. So the city of LA is the pinnacle of what they're trying to do. You know, they're trying to ban rodeo in San Diego also with that new deal. The difference, and people ask me what the difference is there. The difference between what's going on in LA and what's going on in San Diego is San Diego has a tremendous amount of support from big business. So they've got the Padres that are supporting this because it's in their stadium and they want to be a part of it and they like it. But they also, 2 of the big things that are one of the biggest factors really in San Diego is the tribes are behind it. The tribes are behind rodeo. And if you look at the tribes all over the United States, they're all into rodeo. They're not going to go against rodeo. So the tribes in San Diego, those 2 tribes down there are very powerful within the city. So things don't happen in the city of San Diego without having the approval of the tribes. And so that's where the difference is. In LA, we don't have anything like that. That's why Western Justice had to come into LA and organize this coalition and fight this for the last 4 years, is because there's nobody in LA that's willing to stand up and fight. And the city council is the socialist agenda there is so militant that if you go against them, you're going to have a major issue. And that is the part that is so tough. It's hard for me to get across to people and get people to engage, on this stuff. And that, honestly, that's the saddest part about it. Rodeo, everybody in rodeo should be behind us and helping us and being a big part of this. And they're not, because of complacency, or it's not hitting them right in the wallet themselves or whatever. And that's the tough part. We have to, as a group, have to come together and fight these kind of things, because just like with the circus, they started banning in city by city, and now the circus is gone. They finally gave up. Ringling Brothers finally gave up and said, no. But you think about it, Steve, the circus, the only thing they had going against the circus was a bullhook with the elephants. That was the only thing, and that sounds tough, but we use it in 4-H for pigs and, the same thing, basically the same thing. So it's hard to believe that if they can get the circuses banned, would just be over a bullhook, that we're not going to get rodeo banned if people don't start paying attention.
Circuses and SeaWorld, right? Didn't SeaWorld take a big hit too? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And that was so sad. It's so sad. They go after the zoos, they go after the SeaWorld, they go after all of these different animal ventures, and most of them are doing great things with animals, and yet they make them out to be, something evil.
Dave's website is westernjustice.info, right? westernjustice.info. If you'd like to know more about what Dave Duquette is doing and about this coalition that Dave has been able to put together, and it is the most expansive coalition that has ever represented our interests in the Western way of life. I think I can say that with complete certainty, Dave. You've got every grip from the Bill Pickett rodeos to the PRCA to the PBR to
IPRA, INFR, all of the different groups. Yeah, it's and my biggest thing was like the and I told you this last time I was on, but the one councilwoman, Monica Rodriguez, when she got up and did a very impassioned speech at the last December 5th hearing, this is our talking point should be our talking point for rodeo. And in this situation is that she got up and she said the city of LA has, she said this body, meaning the city council, has never seen this much cultural diversity come together in such solidarity on one issue. And that you go into LA, it's supposed to be the kumbaya, everybody gets along, city of angels, all of the different taglines that they use for that mentality. And I have never been in a place where I've seen so much. You don't see it in rural America. There's so much divide between the Black and the Latinos groups in the city of Los Angeles. It's palatable. And all the way to the city council level. So that's why that was such an important statement in the city of LA.
Yeah. So what's the time frame? What are these? I want to ask you about that, and then I want to ask you about what the next step is for those of us who would like to advocate on what makes sense as opposed to what they're trying to do in Los Angeles. What's the time frame here?
The time frame is we don't know. So basically, that's the sad part.
Which has been the story for 4 years, hasn't it? That
I know.
Yeah.
So every time I say something, it's just totally wrong. So I'm just refraining from go through this committee hearing, which we are supposed to have a voice, and that was one of the things that was stipulated was that stakeholders get to have a voice. Right. Blumenfield did not want anybody to have any kind of opinion on this at all, because he knows he's going to get hammered when that happens. So that was something that for the council members that are on our side made sure was part of it. Now, he was also supposed to bring in some of the council members prior to this being drafted. During the draft, didn't do that. So we're staying as vigilant as we can. We know right now, we have 4 to 5 council members that are on our side and believe this is, and we know that Blumenfield has probably 4 council members on his side. There's 15 total. So that leaves 6 that are hanging in the wings, but they're all very, they don't know a thing about rodeo. Yeah. Other than what we tell them and what Blumenfield tells them and the videos that he tries to bring and promote and that kind of stuff. And the work that the Western Sports Industry Coalition together with PRCA, PBR, Bill Pickett, the INFR, and the Charros. I mean, we're the main core groups of this coalition that do all the work. And all the information and packets we've put together over the last few years has been very succinct, very, very in-depth. So getting that dispels all the, they say that there's animals getting hurt every time there's outs or things going on. And the reality is the PRCA and the PBR have a less than 0.5% injury rate for all the outs, hundreds of thousands of outs. And that's the part that we try to emphasize and stress. Well, then they just say we're lying and nobody's paying attention. Well, the reality of California is we counter that with California Rodeo has to have a licensed veterinarian there at every event.
Yeah.
and they have to inspect the animals.
Yeah,
Injuries.
and the PRCA has documented those statistics, and I think the PBR can say the same over not just the last few years, but I mean I've been a PRCA member for 30 years, and I remember reading those same numbers decades ago. So those are very well documented numbers and statistics.
And, and the hard part, the part that I stress to a lot of these people that we go talk to, whether they're staffers or the council members themselves, is that the PRCA has done such a great job over the last 30 years of implementing rules and making sure that they are above board with everything. And the fact that the only thing animal related, horse wise, or that's not dictated to or that doesn't fall under the Horse Protection Act or the USDA rules is rodeo. And the reason is because PRCA did such a great job. I mean, Cindy Schonholtz and the team and Doug Corey and those guys over the years did such a great job in DC of negating any of the problems that, and Doug Corey's on our coalition. He's part of, he's on our weekly call. We have and a lot of people don't realize we have a weekly call. I'm going to be getting on it here in an hour. We have a weekly call every week with the coalition for the last almost 4 years. I mean, and we've missed very few weeks in that percentage wise in that time. We have dedicated ourselves to fighting this so that the second largest city in the United States does not ban our way of life to where it starts to drift off into other things. Now, if they do pass this ordinance, and they could pass. And if this ordinance passes, we are going to sue. And we're going to need everybody's help because Western Justice can't afford $1 million lawsuit right now. So we have to call on everybody to say, hey, we need some help.
Right. So that is my final question is this. What should all of us be doing right now in response to this? You've had a comment campaign going for quite a while to reach out to the LA City Council. I know you sent me a QR code the other day on a text message. What can people do right now?
That QR code, comment on the LA City Council. It takes 2 minutes at the very most to go in there and put your name in and comment on there. And it could be as simple as please don't ban rodeo. Or you can get in depth as you want. We're going to need financial resources to do all this stuff. We spend about close to $10,000 a month on this issue every month for the last 4 years. So that is not insignificant, and it's not easy. I feel like I'm a full-time fundraiser sometimes because we're trying to save everybody else's way of life. And the reality is we need people to not be complacent and become a member. Help us out. Be a part of this. That's the best way that they can do it is become a member of Western Justice, and that will help us to be able to keep fighting. And our team is dedicated to this, and there's a lot of great people out here that are working their butts off to keep our way of life going.
There is an annual membership page on westernjustice.info. Starting as low as $25 and going up from there. So if you've thought about it, this would be a good time to get involved. Where's the QR code at, Dave, that folks can go to and find? And where should folks go to find the information about how to email?
It's on the website. It's on our website. All of it's on our website. You can go to our Facebook page and see the QR code. There's plenty of places to find it that way. All they got to do is, Google the rodeo ban in LA and find the Western Justice links and it'll pop up, or just go to westernjustice.info.
This is an important deal. I used the metaphor earlier about the nose under the camel's tent. 1 second the nose is under the tent, and then pretty soon the whole camel's in the tent. And that's where you're trying to slam the brakes on this now if you can. People who say, well, what does it matter? I mean, how many rodeos are in Los Angeles? Well, one thing leads to another. And there are a lot of rodeos around Los Angeles that are close by geographically. And if this starts to spread, then all of a sudden we're fighting in the whole state of California.
Well, and that's the Steve. That's the great point is that LA is the second largest city in the United States. It's the same reason we fought this thing every time it comes up in New York, and we fought it at the state level. The state level, there's a congresswoman up there that keeps trying to bring it up, and we fight it and we beat it back. We feel like we haven't had to fight it for this last year because she knew they knew they weren't getting anywhere with it. So now with the situation in Pittsburgh, with their PBR is going to be able to go in and do their bull riding in Pittsburgh. That was the first place to ever ban rodeo. So now rodeo is not going to be legal, but PBR can go back in. So that's getting our foot back in the door of what's going on there. And I think we have to change the narrative. We have to do the paradigm shift and all come together. If we all come together, I've said it a million times. I think there's no bigger, more financially well-heeled demographic than if you put ranching, rodeo, and the Western horse world together. And that's what Western Justice is. We're trying to bring all of them together to make one of the strongest lobby groups for our way of life.
Okay, before I let you go, I want to change the subject completely. You recently were involved in the production of a movie. Tell me the name of the movie and remind everybody about the movie.
So it's a documentary series that's not even out yet, but it's coming out. I'm shopping it to the major platforms right now, and it's called The Great Pocatello Land Grab, and it's about two ranches that were being forcibly annexed into the city limits of Pocatello. So we went in there and we found corruption that nobody's ever found. And we actually won an Emmy for it, for just our trailer.
Wow. That's awesome. So everybody ought to be wanting to put an Emmy Award winner on their network now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like I said earlier, being the dumb high school educated crayon eating Marine cowboy, I never ever would have thought I'd be. I never aspired to be an Emmy Award winner. We just happened to get into the middle of a situation and not back down. And this thing's going to expose corruption like most people have never seen, to the point, Steve, where the actual, not that I kind of believe the FBI is where good evidence goes to die, but the Quantico, Virginia, the federal racketeering unit has taken this case on, and they only take on the mob and cartels and things like that. So they've taken on this case because it's so unbelievably corrupt, and it goes from a judge all the way down through the city council and and private players, developers. So
the Great Pocatello Land Grab,
and it is the real life Yellowstone.
I'll be darned.
I mean, it's the whole, all the way down to the daughter comes home from LA and is trying to square everything away and take the fight to these people because they're trying to steal the land.
I'll be darned. I can't wait to see it. Let me know as soon as you get a network or as soon as you get somebody to carry it. And congratulations on the Emmy. Hold up the Emmy again. That's cool. I've never seen one of those held up by somebody I know who's one of my friends. Too. Is it really? Awesome.
Yeah, I was actually gonna make a gold chain and wear it around my neck at an event, but.
No, I think you need to keep the statue intact. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Dave, congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work. This man does not get near the credit. He doesn't get near the support. And we need to band together. And I'm going to get on westernjustice.info as soon as I get done with this interview and make sure that my membership is intact. It's something that needs to be done. And, Dave, I just really appreciate all that you do on behalf of everybody in our industry. And so westernjustice.info is the best place to go to start. Dave, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Dave Duquette, that interview from last July, but I thought I'd share it because it is still pertinent today. And they're still discussing that potential, basically, ban on rodeo in the LA City Council. And Dave's been fighting that fight for 4 years now, trying to stand on behalf of Western industry, and appreciate all the work that he does. You can join Western Justice, by the way, westernjustice.info. Please like and subscribe to the Steve Kenyon Podcast. You can go to 8secondsmedia.com and get all that information. Thanks for joining us. God bless everybody. I'm Steve Kenyon.